The moment we launched the game, I had a sinking feeling that tonight wasn't going to be normal. I had found it on a small forum tucked away in the dark corners of the internet, a horror game called Silent Hallways. The description was vague: explore the abandoned school, survive the night, don't answer the phone. Normally, I roll my eyes at creepy internet games, but something about the warnings felt different. The kind of different that creeps into your chest before you even hit play. I booted it up, headphones plugged in, lights dimmed. The screen glowed a sickly pale blue, and the main menu appeared. Enter the school settings, exit. Nothing fancy, no flashy graphics, just an eerie corridor in the background, the faint echo of footsteps. My heart was already racing. I shrugged and clicked enter the school. The loading screen flickered strangely, almost like the game was breathing. Then it happened, a soft, static-laden sound like an old radio. I froze. It's probably just part of the audio, I muttered to myself. But then I noticed the reflection in my monitor. At first, I thought it was my imagination, a shadowy figure standing behind me. I spun around, nothing. I tried to laugh it off, but the game continued. My screen now showed the school hallway, long, narrow, lights flickering above, casting uneven shadows that seemed to stretch toward me. Every step I took in the game echoed loudly, each tap of the key sounding unnaturally real. I moved forward slowly, my hands trembling. A door at the end of the hall was slightly ajar, and behind it silence. Then my phone buzzed. A notification from an unknown number. You shouldn't be here. I jumped so hard I nearly knocked my headset off. My heart pounded against my ribs like it wanted to escape. I looked around the room, expecting to see someone, but it was just me alone in my dimly lit apartment. I clicked the phone off and told myself, it's just a prank, but deep down, something told me it wasn't. Back in the game, the hallway now had graffiti on the walls, words that hadn't been there a second ago. Help me, scrawled in jagged letters. My stomach twisted. The footsteps I had heard earlier were back, closer this time. I froze in place, staring at the game screen, listening. Tap, I tap, tap. They weren't my keystrokes anymore. Someone or something was moving in the hallway with me. I tried to move my character, but the controls lagged, like the game had a mind of its own. And then, faintly, I heard it through my headphones, a crackling voice, barely audible. Hello, is anyone there? It sounded live. Not part of the game, my pulse spiked. My hands were shaking as I pressed forward, each step in-game making my own room feel colder. And then I saw it, a phone in the corner of the hallway, ringing. The screen showed an incoming call labeled 911. I knew I shouldn't, but I clicked it. The screen went black for a split second, and then the line connected. A dispatcher's voice came through, distorted, static-laced, but unmistakable. 911, what's your emergency? I froze. This was just a game, right? But my own apartment was silent. No prank. No one behind me, and yet my hands were sweating on the keyboard, my heart racing like I'd just run a mile. The dispatcher continued, calm but tense, asking questions I couldn't answer, and that's when I realized the game wasn't just haunted. The game was listening. Are you alone? I stared at the screen. Why? Died. My breath caught in my throat. I didn't know what to say, and that's when the whisper came, soft but unmistakable, from my own speakers. No one was supposed to be here. I yanked my headphones off, but the screen kept moving. The hallway stretched on forever, empty, but in the distance I could see movement. Shadows, footsteps, something waiting. And that's when my phone buzzed again. Then the call came. I screamed. I picked up my headphones again, hands trembling. I knew I shouldn't, but curiosity, or maybe foolish bravery, pushed me forward. The game glitched for a second, then loaded me back into the school hallway. Only this time it felt different, darker. The lights flickered more violently, casting long, uneven shadows that twisted along the walls. The air in my apartment felt heavier, almost electric, and I could hear a faint static hum from my speakers, like a distant radio signal trying to get through. I moved my character forward slowly, every step sounding unnaturally loud, echoing through the empty digital halls. My heart was racing, but I told myself, it's just a game, just pixels and code. But the further I walked, the more I realized the hallway seemed alive. The tiles cracked beneath my character's feet with each step, and the doors on either side squeaked open and shut, as if something unseen was walking alongside me. Then I heard it, a faint voice coming through the game's static audio, like a recording played on repeat. "Help, anyone, please." It sounded eerily like a child. I froze in place, my hands hovering over the keyboard. My stomach churned, and I could feel the room around me grow colder. My apartment wasn't that cold it never was, but now it felt like frost creeping over my skin. I looked at the screen. The hallway had changed. The walls were no longer blank. Scrawled in a digital blood, red font were words I didn't recognize. "They are watching. You are next." I swallowed hard and moved my character forward, the footsteps behind me matching my own. Every time I turned, the hallway stretched further, impossibly long, like it had no end. My heartbeat synced with the sound effects, loud in my ears. Then I heard it again, a faint ringing. My phone buzzed, same unknown number, same message. "Do you hear them too?" I stared at it. My pulse spiked. The game wasn't just a horror experience anymore. It was interacting with the real world. The line between the game and reality was blurring, and I felt myself slipping into that digital nightmare. I tried to leave the game, Alt plus F4, nothing. Task Manager, nothing. The screen flickered, and then a video overlay appeared in-game. A real-time recording of a 911 call started playing. At first, I thought it was part of the game, but the dispatcher's voice sounded too real, too detailed. I could hear the static, the paper shuffling, faint background noises, footsteps echoing down a hallway eerily similar to the one in-game. The dispatcher's voice was calm but tense. 911, what's your emergency? Then a panicked voice responded, distant and trembling. There's someone here. The school is empty. My hands shook. I didn't know whether to look at my phone, the game, or just run. The way the audio overlapped with the game environment was perfect. Every creak, every whisper, every step seemed to exist in my real apartment as well. It was too real. I froze in silence, listening. The dispatcher asked question after question, and every time the mysterious caller responded, I could feel the fear radiating from the screen like a physical weight pressing down on me. I leaned closer. My eyes widened when the screen displayed the hallway from the 911 call in the game. It wasn't pre-rendered, it was live. Every shadow matched the sounds, every echo matched the footsteps. I felt like I was standing inside the school itself. Then the dispatcher asked a question that made my blood run cold. Who's still inside? I couldn't breathe. My heart thudded painfully in my chest. Every instinct screamed at me to shut it down, to leave it, but my eyes were glued to the screen. The figure at the end of the hall, faint, shadowy, moving closer, was mirrored in the audio. The call was coming from inside the game, or the game was coming from the call. And that's when the first real terror hit. My phone buzzed again. The message was short, simple, and chilling. I'm inside with you. I screamed. The moment my phone buzzed with that message, I'm inside with you, something inside me snapped. My hands were trembling so badly I could barely type. I wanted to close the game, shut down the PC, anything. But the Alt-Tab key didn't work. Task Manager refused to open. The game was locked on my screen, and worse, the 911 audio from the dispatcher had grown louder, clearer, almost as if it were being projected live into my apartment. The dispatcher's calm voice now had a tinge of urgency. Please, who's there? Someone answer me. And then came the background sounds, soft footsteps, the faint dragging of something heavy, a chair scraping across the floor. I froze, listening. My apartment was silent except for that noise. My own walls seemed to hum with it. My pulse was a drumbeat in my ears. The game's hallway stretched farther than before, twisting impossibly. Shadows flitted along the walls, sometimes vanishing when I looked directly at them. Every doorway I passed had the same subtle, horrifying detail. A faint, flickering silhouette moving just out of focus. I could feel it watching me. It knew I was there. Then the game added something new. Text overlays. Faint, jagged letters appearing on the walls in real time. You can't hide, I see you. I swore out loud. My hands were shaking so badly I couldn't type. I leaned closer to the monitor, trying to make sense of it. The dispatcher on the audio line sounded like he was panicking now, his voice rising. Who's in the school? Tell me your name. A whisper crawled through my headphones, not from the game, not from the speakers, but somewhere behind me. I already know. I spun around. Empty apartment, only the hum of my computer. My heart was hammering against my ribcage. The game's camera angle shifted suddenly, panning down a hallway I had never seen before. At the end, a small flickering phone lay on the floor, just like in my real apartment. I didn't touch it. I didn't want to, but the game it wasn't waiting. My in-game character moved on its own, approaching the phone. And as it did, the 911 audio became distorted. The caller's voice, that panicked, trembling voice, now echoed my own thoughts. Every please and help me sounded like it was coming from inside the room, not the speakers. My blood ran cold. Then the unthinkable happened. The dispatcher suddenly whispered something I didn't expect. He's closer, don't turn around. I froze. Every hair on my body stood on end. I didn't move. And then, from my own microphone, which I hadn't even activated, I heard a faint breathing. Heavy, slow, stepping closer. It matched the in-game footsteps perfectly. My heart skipped a beat. The 911 caller screamed. Not through the game, not through my headphones, but through my own speakers, and somehow through my own throat. I gagged, trying to breathe. I looked at the screen. The figure at the end of the hallway had moved closer. Too close, the shadowy form stopped just before my in-game character, and I realized it was no longer digital. It was mirrored in the room around me. The lights flickered violently. I could hear a faint metallic scrape, like nails dragging along the floor. Then the game displayed one last message before the screen went black. It's too late. I'm here. Silence. I didn't breathe for what felt like an eternity. My hands were shaking, sweat dripping down my forehead. Then my phone buzzed again, an unknown number. I didn't dare look, but the message preview was visible. Player 1 answer the call. I couldn't move. My apartment felt like a trap. Every shadow seemed alive, the echoes of the 911 call lingering in the corners of the room. And the worst part, I knew without a doubt that whatever had reached through the game, it wasn't gone. And that's when my headset started moving. After the headset started moving on its own, I felt frozen. My mind was screaming, my body refusing to react. I could hear the static from the 911 call still echoing faintly through the speakers, but now it was layered with something else, soft whispers, almost unintelligible, but undeniably human. My pulse pounded so hard I thought it might explode out of my chest. I tried to close the game, but the Alt-Tab key didn't work. Task Manager, nothing. The game was in control. I forced myself to look at the screen. The school hallway had changed again. The walls were warped, distorted, like the building itself had taken a breath and stretched. The layout of the hallways, it was exactly like my apartment. The doorway leading to my bedroom was now mirrored in-game, down to the angle of the carpet and the faint crack in the corner of the ceiling. My stomach turned. This wasn't coincidence. This was deliberate. Then the in-game microphone activated on its own. I could hear my own movements amplified through the speakers, every shuffle of my chair, every breath, every slight creak of the floorboards. It was uncanny, horrifying. My real room and the game were merging. The footsteps I had heard earlier weren't just in the game anymore. They were walking through my apartment. My hands shook uncontrollably as I realized the shadows on my screen were now tracking my every movement in real life. The 911 call audio was still playing. The dispatcher was talking, asking questions I couldn't answer, the caller's panicked voice overlapping with every sound in my apartment. And then the voice said something I'll never forget. "They know where you are. Don't move." I froze. My eyes darted around the room, catching faint movements in the corners of my vision, shadows flitting just beyond the edge of the dim light. Every nerve in my body screamed at me to run, but I couldn't, not yet. Something was compelling me to watch the game. I watched as the in-game character turned a corner and saw a figure at the end of the hall, a shadowy, human-like shape just standing there, motionless. And then the game displayed text, jagged and pulsating. "Do you see me?" My heart skipped a beat. The figure in-game wasn't just following me digitally, it was in sync with my own apartment. Every time it moved on screen, I could swear I felt a presence behind me. The 911 audio dispatcher's voice became louder, more urgent. "Who's still in the school? Please respond." I whispered back, unsure if I was speaking into the game or to myself. I'm here." A shadow shifted behind me. I whipped around, nothing. But when I turned back to the screen, the in-game figure was closer, its head tilted as if examining me. My body froze. The microphone in the game picked up a faint sound of my own voice and distorted it into a high-pitched, garbled scream. My blood ran cold. The hallway continued to stretch. Every door opened and closed by itself, shadows flickering across the walls in perfect synchronization with the audio from the 911 call. Then the dispatcher said my name, my real name, not my in-game username, my actual name. I couldn't move. I couldn't breathe. I barely dared to blink. And then, from the in-game phone lying on the digital hallway floor, a notification appeared, a real phone number I recognized, one I had never seen before. The message preview read, "Answer now or it's too late." The 911 dispatcher's voice rose into a scream, overlapping with the distorted static of my own voice coming through the headset. The figure in-game was right in front of my character, looming. I could feel it behind me, I could sense it, but every time I turned, the room appeared empty. Then the game glitched violently, the screen splitting into multiple images of my apartment, each one slightly delayed, each one showing shadows that weren't there moments before. My pulse raced, my hands shook so violently I could barely hold the mouse, and then the 911 call stopped. Silence, but in that silence, the words flashed on the screen, "You're inside with me now." I screamed, but the sound didn't seem real. It was like it echoed from somewhere beneath the floor. The lights in my apartment flickered violently, synced perfectly with the stuttering fluorescent bulbs in the game. Every shadow seemed to stretch and twist, dancing along the walls as if something unseen was moving with purpose. My headset was still on, and the distorted 911 audio continued, louder now, overlapping with my own panicked breaths. I could hear it, something creeping closer behind me, matching the footsteps in the game. My pulse was a chaotic drumbeat, my hands trembling uncontrollably as I gripped the mouse. I tried to leave, Alt plus F4, unplug the computer, pull the power cord, nothing worked. The game wasn't just a program anymore, it had taken control. Every command I tried to escape, every attempt to shut it down, was mirrored by the in-game character. It moved faster, its shadow stretching long and thin down the hallways, always just a step ahead of me. Then my phone buzzed again. Unknown number, message preview, you can't run. I didn't need to open it to feel the fear seeping through my chest. My apartment was freezing cold, the air heavy and thick, and then I heard the whisper again, soft, sinister, just behind me. I'm right here. I spun. Nothing, just the empty apartment, but the game on the monitor told a different story. The figure was in front of my character now, face obscured, shadowed, leaning slightly forward like it was studying me. My heart raced so fast it hurt. The dispatcher's voice in the 911 call screamed, overlapped with static and my own panicked voice. I stumbled back, tripping over the edge of my chair, and hit the desk. The game screen went black for a split second, then reloaded, this time showing my real apartment, mirrored perfectly. My bed, my desk, the small lamp I always leave on, all inside the game, down to the tiniest details. And then the phone in-game rang. I froze. It wasn't just the game anymore. The ring came from my real phone as well. I picked it up with shaking hands, unknown number. The screen lit up with the message, round 2 starts now. I screamed, my voice cracking. My apartment felt alive, every sound amplified. The 911 dispatcher's voice screamed one last warning, they are inside with you. Before I could react, the lights went out completely. Total darkness, only the faint blue glow from my monitor remained, and then a shadow moved behind me. I couldn't move, my body refused to obey. I wanted to scream, but my voice caught in my throat. The shadow shifted, circling, watching. I could feel its presence pressing down on me, like ice crawling along my skin. I focused on the screen. The in-game figure was now right in front of my character, almost touching it. Then it reached out and my monitor flickered violently. The 911 call overlapped one final time, distorted, screaming, whispering my name, then silence, total, suffocating silence. I didn't dare move, didn't dare breathe, and then my real phone buzzed, a message, one word, welcome. I dropped the phone. The lights flickered back on, my apartment normal again. The game had crashed, the monitor was black. My pulse slowly began to settle, though my hands were still shaking. I stared at the empty room, trying to convince myself it had been a hallucination. But deep down I knew it wasn't over. Hours later, I dared to check my messages. The unknown number had sent one last text, see you tonight. My stomach sank. I deleted the game. I deleted every file, every trace. But later, when I booted my computer, it was back. The icon blinking on my desktop like it had never left. I didn't touch it. I haven't since. I've stopped playing horror games. I avoid screens at night. And sometimes when I'm alone, I hear it, a faint ringing from somewhere deep inside my apartment, a whisper over my own microphone, a voice repeating those chilling words. No one was supposed to be there. Then the call came. Safe to say, I'm never launching that game again. And if you ever come across a file called Silent Hallways, just walk away. Because some games don't just stay on the screen. They follow you. They watch.